Shakha. Dr. Sujata Shakha, she is oncologist. She had her PhD in oral cancer. She was trained as a dental surgeon from Nepal and went to Tokyo to have her PhD in oncology. And she's there working with a university as well as a research organization for last few years. And then we have Dr. Gauri Shankar Bhandari. Dr. Bhandari, would you mind to, yes. Dr. Bhandari is trained as a plant scientist. Presently, he is with Seoul National University in South Korea. He is working with Resources Himalaya Foundation in Nepal, but currently he is with the Seoul National University and is a very good geneticist. And then we have Dr. Sachiton Sarawadi. She's from Thailand, and she's a very active member of Thai Young Academic, Thai Academy of Young Scientist Academy. Sorry, I have to. And yes, I happen to know her through a virtual meetings. She and I were in the same group of science policy, and I found this lady very intelligent and working on AI, I think, these days. Yeah. And she spends some of her time as a volunteer with the Thai Young Scientist group, that is the academy. And then we have our invited speaker from Kathmandu, Dr. Sher Bahadur Poon, a very famous name since last few years, especially when this COVID-19, the pandemic took place. And Dr. Poon is graduated from Japan. He has his PhD in infectious disease, and presently he's working with Shukraraj Infectious Disease Hospital there in Kathmandu. And then we have invited Dr. Michael Croft. He is the UNESCO head based in Kathmandu, and he brings a lot of experiences, including Vietnam and other countries around the world. And he has he has developed and also developing strategic plans for Nepal's science and technology. I hope he will be discussing a little about it. And then we have Dr. Nalini Subba Chetri. Dr. Subba Chetri presently is working with Arizona State University. She has her PhD in sociology, I guess, from the United States of America. And currently, she's working with policy activities there in Arizona State University. And then we have former Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Engineer Ganesh Shah. Engineer Shah is trained from USSR. It was those days he had his degree from USSR, which is now Russia. So these are the invited speakers and invited personalities to today's session. And also today I can see here a galaxy of intellectuals, galaxy of scientists there, like my own teacher, Professor Kamal Krishna Shrestha, who is a nuclear scientist of Nepal. Also, I can see here Dr. Ramesh Mahan Singh. I guess he is perhaps the first polymer scientist of Nepal, also trained from USSR long time back. And I can see here many other personalities, including young scientist and the dean, Dr. Kapil Adhikari, who is a physicist by training. And I see here from UNESCO office, Mr. Khagaraj Porial, and also I see academician, Professor Anjana Singh, and a lot many others here. Sorry if I do not see, I do not take your name here because we are running, we are already, we have already passed 10 minutes. So I think I should stop here, and please introduce yourself later part in the session when you have your question in the session. So with this, let's begin this program. First, I would like to request former Minister Ganesh Shah to permit me to undertake to proceed ahead with this program as a chair of the session. Ganesh Shah sir, we are proposing you to chair this very special session to mark World Science Day for Peace and Development. I'm sure he got a telephone call. That's why he is not responding. Anyway, he will do it later. So with his kind permission, he has actually already permitted us to proceed it. First of all, as the program moves on, as you know, that today, November 10, is celebrated as the World Science Day for Peace and Development. I guess the Science Day is observed in over 155 countries today. This can be derived from the fact that there were representatives and delegates from 155 countries who were gathered in the World Conference on Science in Budapest in 1999. It was 21 years ago. And this gathering proposed the conference organizers, the UNESCO, to observe a Science Day. And after the study, the UNESCO adopted the proposal and proclaimed the World Science Day for Peace and Development in 2001. Encouragingly, some countries celebrate at least 2 such days, as they have been observing the Science Day before 2001. Organized at the dawn of the 21st century, the Budapest Conference placed a new commitment by science to society and by society to science. The World Science Day for Peace and Development is celebrated every 10 November, as we mentioned. It highlights the important role of science in society and the need to engage the wider public debates on emerging scientific issues. It also underlines the importance and relevance of science in our daily lives. By linking science more closely with society, the celebration of this day aims to ensure that citizens are kept informed of development in science. Also, it underscores the role of scientists in broadening our understanding of the planet we call home, our planet, and in making our societies more sustainable. As I mentioned, some of the countries do have 2 science days. For example, Nepal, we have the National Science Day on Ashwin 1st, which is the mid of September. And similarly, some other countries like China, India, and many other countries, they have both the days. So with this very short background of World Science Day, I would like to proceed the program today. Thank you very much for joining us to celebrate this day much enthusiastically. To begin with, may I request Dr. Michael Croft to give an opening speech of this day. Over to you, Dr. Croft.
Dr. Dinesh, thank you so much. The Honorable Dr. Ganesh Shah, esteemed colleagues in Kathmandu and also in the region. Warm greetings from Paris. From the site, actually, I've come to Paris to be at the General Conference, the UNESCO General Conference, which is basically the General Assembly of UNESCO is meeting now. It actually started yesterday. It's an exciting time to be here. I haven't actually been to Paris for a while because of COVID, and it's good to catch up with friends and colleagues. And it's also a general conference that's very much about science this year. And there will be 2 resolutions, very important resolutions of the international community, the member states. One is going to be on the adoption of a framework, and this will interest some of you working on artificial intelligence, the adoption of a framework on the ethics of artificial intelligence, which is, of course, a space that is expanding very quickly, and something that I think that to a certain extent, perhaps the international community is playing a little bit catch up with. And this is why this is a very important resolution. The other resolution is on open science. And this resolution has to do with more than, I think, just having science available more online and more accessible to people, but it's also to sort of to strengthen the links between science and society, if I can put it this way. I have to confess, I haven't even really understood it completely myself, so I'm not going to try to explain it to you. But what I can say is that there's a very strong science theme to what's going on, and of course, why not? We're still living through the pandemic. Climate change is upon us. More and more the member states, more and more the world is asking more from scientists, and that's going to be something that continues. And as an organization whose mandate is to foster international cooperation through education, science, and culture in the service of peace, I think that UNESCO is going to be increasingly challenged to keep up with this work. If I look a little bit and just speak a little bit about what Nepal and UNESCO and science, I think I would give first start off with a bit of an apology to the scientific community. Those of you I'm interested in at the moment, I don't think we've particularly well served you in the past. And I don't think that we have placed as an organization enough emphasis on our collaboration with Nepal in the scientific area. Now, this wouldn't matter so much if there wasn't so many different networks, scientific platforms for collaboration in terms of the region and international that flow through and around UNESCO. I've worked for UNESCO for about 22 years, and one of the things that is very clear is that one of the strengths of the organization is its networks and what we are connected to. Expertise, more often than not, does not sit with UNESCO, but we know where the expertise is to be found. And if you remove UNESCO from the equation, for instance, if our office in Nepal is not acting as the conduit for this current, if I can put it this way, this scientific current of collaboration, then it has actually a real impact and a negative impact on Nepal's ability to communicate what's going on in science, to interact with other communities around the world. And anyway, this is going to change. Science is, as Dr. Dinesh has alluded to, we are in the process of doing a complete reboot on our strategy in Nepal, and we are going to lean in very strongly on science. And for obvious reasons, I'm preaching to the converted, as they say. I don't need to explain to you why that is important. But what I need to tell you today is that this is very important to us. And we think that it's very important because we think that there is a story to be told, that there is a certain amount of expertise. The country has a sound foundation in terms of a scientific foundation, and that the region and also internationally can benefit from hearing more about and from Nepali science and scientists. In terms of what we're looking at, I can, let's say we're not quite there. We're still having our consultations with people like you, with government, with our own organization, because it's also very important that I connect as well with the institutional priorities of the organization. And so what is being discussed at the General Conference? What are the member states saying that's critical for UNESCO to take forward? I have to make sure that those same issues are reflected in our collaboration with Nepal, to make sure that we're on the right track. What I can tell you at the moment is certainly this. Many of you are familiar with 𝐸𝐸𝐸, the regional organization that is almost, I like to look at it as like a miniature UNESCO for the Himalayas. You will forgive my ignorance, but when I was having a meeting, or when I was traveling actually with Dr. Pema, who's the Director General of 𝐸𝐸𝐸, I said, Dr. Pema, talking to you is like talking to somebody from UNESCO. I mean, we really have to work together. And Dr. Pema informed me, I didn't know, UNESCO gave birth to 𝐸𝐸𝐸 in 1981. And it was on the basis of an agreement between UNESCO and the government of Nepal that the organization was established with its headquarters in Kathmandu. So this is kind of a no-brainer for us. So one of the things is that we have to do immediately is to connect with 𝐸𝐸𝐸, to build on the good work that they're doing, and to see how we can leverage what they're doing, to see what crucial entry points there are where UNESCO should come in behind 𝐸𝐸𝐸, and how we can, how should I say, amplify their efforts and assist in terms of the good work they're doing, and provide more visibility as well to that. The second thing that we're looking at, I would say, that is on Indigenous knowledge. This next year is the start of the International Decade for Indigenous Languages, which is really being looked at as an international decade for I would say, the promotion and realization of the rights of Indigenous peoples. And I think, as you all know, Nepal is a very extremely rich cultural diversity. And there is a lot, I think, which we can, in terms of traditional medicine, traditional science, traditional coping measures with climate change, et cetera, that could be brought to the forefront. Not everything requires a modern, technical, expensive solution. And so we want to pay more attention to this. Also, I should say that, I'll leave this maybe for the end in terms of the intersectorality. The third, no, I won't, I'll say it now. The other thing is that the Indigenous knowledge is also a good example for the type of program that we want. In education, if we're going to work with marginalized communities, often these can be found in Indigenous communities. But we also have to, in culture, we want to stress more on intangible cultural heritage, which means living heritage, to move away, to add to what we're doing in terms of Nepal's important heritage sites, to work more with people and more with the local communities. And so what that basically means is that we want education and culture and communication information to support science as well. We don't want to take science forward in a vacuum. And there's a lot that the other perspectives can add to our work in science, and a lot that science can add to our work in education, culture, and communication. The third area is really about this connecting, this UNESCO as connector, and it's about really redoubling our efforts to move quickly to ensure that Nepal is connected into those networks, regional networks and international networks, platforms and conversations that are going on now that Nepal can benefit from, and that can benefit from the involvement of Nepal. And some of those, we will start with some of the ones that run through UNESCO, because those are the ones which are in our immediate area of control. And here I'm talking about things like the Program of Man in the Biosphere. I'm talking about the work, the regional work on disaster risk reduction, et cetera, et cetera. And I think underlying the whole thing is connecting science to youth and engaging with the youth on science. I don't know how else to express it. I really want to turn up the dial on science in Nepal. I think that UNESCO can be a good platform, and I want to use UNESCO and let you use UNESCO as a platform to amplify the work that you're doing, the great work that you're doing, your contribution to Nepali society, and also to reach out to young people in Nepal. There are, I'm sure, even if I haven't had the time to look around yet, I know that there are young Nepali researchers who are very talented, who are doing very interesting work. I want to give more visibility to them. I want to hear from them. I want our program to be based on their suggestions. We really wish to make a big effort to promote young scientists and young people who are engaged in scientists, and encourage more young people, especially women and especially young girls, to do this. We also have the network of UNESCO clubs in Nepal. There's 200 UNESCO clubs in Nepal, most of which were filled with very active, creative, innovative young people working on UNESCO things, if I can put it. We want to use that network also to how should I put it, to put some science, to ensure that we have some science in that network as well, and to use that network for the good of science. I could talk for a long time. It's what we do very well at the UN, as you know, but I don't want to take up other people's time. I just wanted simply to tell you a little bit what's going on. I mean, UNESCO for science is crucially important now for the organization, for the member states. It's important in Nepal. We need to up our game. We're going to do this, and we really, I'm looking forward to hearing from you and for your suggestions on how we do this, and to connect with you, and to make sure that the program, as we move forward, it really meets the needs, that it's not us defining the priorities and needs of the Nepali scientific community, if I can put it this way, that we're really informed by your work, and that you see value in our work, and you're able to use us again as UNESCO as a platform for what you do. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Namaskar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Croft, highlighting the three very important strategies that you are conceiving, you have conceived and planning to implement. We are very much excited, especially when you said that you are giving emphasis, you are trying your best for connectivity, connecting Nepal to the world's scientific forums. Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you. I mean, the whole Nepali scientific community would like to work with UNESCO in advancing Nepal science and technology. Thank you very much. Now we proceeding ahead. As you know, today's session we have entitled Love with Science in the Time of Corona Pandemic. Perhaps many of you have gone through the book, the novel by Nobel laureate Gabriel Garcia Marquez of Colombia, who got a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1970s for his wonderful novel called 100 Years of Solitude. The same person, Garcia, has a novel called Love in the Time of Cholera. It's a very interesting one, and I have taken cholera as the pandemic. So that's a romantic novel by Garcia Marquez, and here we have romanticism, romance, not with the girlfriend or boyfriend, but with science. We have invited 4 distinguished, very young scientists who work hard, who continued their work even during the time of Corona pandemic, even after the imposing of the lockdown, and when the coronavirus was, spreading like anything. So we want to hear their experiences, how they continue their work with a deep love with science. For the first, I would like to invite Saka. She's all the way from Tokyo now. Sujata, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my slides. Please wait for a while. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see. Please put it in presentation mode. And in the meantime, may I request Dr. Narayan Kozu, in case I'm offline, I mean, sometimes there is a problem in the internet, to continue the problem. Okay, from Nepal. Thank you.
I tried to. Hi, thank you very much for this opportunity. I tried to put it in the whole slide, but it didn't come, so I will just put it in this way. I think it froze. Can you hear me?
Yes, very loud and clear.
Okay, but my slides are okay. Hi. So good evening from Japan. Namaste. I'm Sujata from Tokyo Medical and Dental University. So today I would like to talk briefly about the current situation and as well as my project. And the first picture I would like to explain here is this is from our dental department of university, and you can see them wearing a face shield made up of clear foil and the frame of the face shield, which is made by 3D printing device that is used for making the tooth model. So this was made during the pandemic time when there was lack of personal protection for the medical personnel. So this is my introduction. Today I will be briefly talking on these 3 topics. Introduction, which has actually already been covered by Ms. Mojo sir, brief about the COVID updates in Japan, and one of the mobile application called 𝐶𝐞𝐢 for COVID, and the large part is on my ongoing research project actually, which is about the establishment of a data repository, tumor data repository, into AI-assisted 𝐿UISY system. It's a system that I will explain in my further slides. So as I will skip this, just mentioning that in Nepal, I have worked in Gauri hospital and Kirtipur hospital because I have the dental background. And right now I'm working as a researcher in this university, Tokyo Medical and Dental University, and also in the Regulatory Affairs Department of Sakura Fintech Japan. At present, regarding the COVID updates, the number is sharply decreasing. Like yesterday, only these around 200 new infection cases were reported. The peak was during summer, during and after Olympic. And right now the update is that the quarantine mandatory time has been reduced for the travelers in Japan, those who enter, to 3 days from 2 weeks. And around 75% of the population has been vaccinated until now. And the government has, Ministry of Health and Labor has developed this COVID-19 𝐶𝐞𝐢 app to detect the person next to you if they are positive by using the mobile app. which uses Bluetooth to inform you, notify you if the person next to you has been in close contact with you. So this is one of the COCOA app, also called as COVID-19 contact confirming app, and this is mandatory app for those who enter Japan. And finally, I would like to enter my topic of my research, which is about, again, the establishment of tumor data repository into an AI-assisted CBIR, or content-based image retrieval system. We know that, as a background, I would like to explain that we know that oral and maxillofacial tumor, or the head and neck tumor, like shown here, is very much prevalent in South Asian countries like Nepal and India, and many of the deaths occur in this part. And the only confirmatory diagnosis is pathology. However, the complexity of the tissue heterogeneity is still a challenge for timely diagnosis. And along with that, with the development of microscope, now the pathology is turning digital, and with AI integration in more modern clinical practice. So the AI integration in pathology, particularly for image analysis, is applied in different sectors, like either classification of tumor, or defining the cell structures, or even generating artificial images, as well as searching images from a large image database, which is called CBIR, or content-based image retrieval system. And this is a method of image finding similar image from a large database, where based on the visual contents such as color, shape, or texture, and we can retrieve the similar images to the query image. This has many applications, including medical diagnosis. So this is the 𝐂𝐨𝐫𝐸 system from CBIR, which has been developed from University of Tokyo. And this is now applied in pathology, where the query image, when input into the system, can retrieve the images having similar histopathological features. And this is from the large Cancer Genome Atlas database, the public database. And also recently, it has the function of a mutation prediction for the cancer images, from the cancer images. So I would like to briefly explain the model also of this 𝐂𝐨𝐫𝐸 workflow. So we have a set of whole slide images, the specimen from the patient, that are scanned and digitized into the image, whole slide image, from where we annotate the tumor area, specific tumors area, multiple tumors area, and from there we extract the patches in different magnifications, which are then embedded into the neural network, deep neural network, into 1024 dimensions. And these are stored in the data set, where the query image of our interest, when our input, they are also undergoes through this, they are also placed in this dimension, and then by unsupervised learning method, or by using AI, nearest neighbor search, the similar images are retrieved. And at present, there are more than 7,000 cases from 32 different cancer types, but this system still lacks the head and neck tumors. And this is why my project is to establish the data repository of head and neck tumors. And this is just the method how we annotate in a box form or in a line form before we extract the patches from these in this manner. And we extract the images, patches from different magnification from these tumor areas as for the cyst. And when we project all of the images, all the tumors images into the 2D projection map, to view, then we can see that the tumors of similar histopathological features or textures come close together or cluster together, such as this is the fat tissue cells, fat cells tumor, and these are the glandular tumors. So they come close based on the texture. Also, when we validate with our query image of different type of tumors and cysts, we can retrieve the images from the same diagnosis, like different tumors, and some of them are not matching, whereas even when they are not directly the same diagnosis, are from the same category. So this system has been proven valid to retrieve the similar images. And this is the performance evaluation from the TCGA database, which is a huge database, and we can see the precision is very high, whereas in our present study database, the precision is much lower compared to this database. But the reason would be that the number of samples that we have included is much smaller, and we need to include more of the rare and multiple tumor variants, such that we can retrieve much of the most similar images. So our future plan is to enriching the library with rare and multiple tumors, also including the supplementary function. And right now the validation is ongoing clinically in Indonesia, and we are proposing to validate this in Nepal also. So we think that in current scenario of COVID-19 crisis, so AI tools like this system can best prove as an effective assistant, like assisting tool for pathologists and the technicians who are in the field of pathology, where there is less facility of or the less number of consultant pathologists. So this could be a very effective tool for in digital pathology, not only for diagnosis, but also for education and research purpose. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata Sakha. I think Dinesh sir is
Yes.
right now not with us. Oh, sir, Dinesh sir is there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Dr. 𝐒𝐲𝐞. Thank you very much, Dr. Sujata Sakha. Dear participants, a few months back, I served how many scientific works had been done after the coronavirus infection started in the world. I found, to my surprise, more than 100,000 research articles published only in coronavirus and COVID-19. How is it possible? Imagine, within less than 8 months, publishing over 100,000 research articles in peer-reviewed journals. This is simply made possible by the hardworking scientists like Sujata and many others. For the scientist, there is no lockdown. For science, the pandemic is there, but their works continues. Thank you very much, Dr. Sakha. And now proceed ahead. We have Dr. Gauri University at present.
Thank you, Puju sir. Dear Chairperson, ex-Minister Ganesh Shah, UNESCO representative, Dr. Michael Croft, Dr. Nalini Chetri, invited speakers, and the audience. I'm honored and delighted to be here to present my professional experience, but I'm sorry, I have not prepared slides for presentation because I'm just going to share my experiences, how I carried out my research in spite of the problem created by the COVID pandemic. Actually, I'm working as a postdoctoral fellow in Seoul National University since last 2 years. I started my work in late 2019, and the aims and objectives of my research were developed before the pandemic started. So I had just started working for about 2 months, and the pandemic in Korea started. And by March of 2020, Korea was one of the most affected country by COVID-19. So it was a kind of panic working in offices. However, the government did not impose complete lockdown. There was a kind of semi-lockdown in Korea. I was working in a project, research project about the systematics of 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐥𝐝, plant genus of plant family Polygonaceae. I was working in the systematics and evolution of that genus. So the COVID pandemic affected my work in 3 ways. Number one, I was unable to visit the herbaria in Korea and Japan, which was originally planned during the preparation of proposal of my research project, because I was supposed to revise the taxonomic treatment of some of the target taxa. I had to focus on that genus, and for that I had to visit herbaria to compare different species collected from different localities in Korea and Japan and other neighboring countries, including China and Russia. So in this way, there was obstacle in pursuing my research work. In number two, I couldn't collect samples from the neighboring countries. We were planning to collect samples from Korea, Japan, China, and Russia, and we had to compare the DNA sequences of the species from these countries, and we had to figure out the evolution, how evolution has taken place in that genus called 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐥𝐝. So I originally had planned to collect plants from Korea, at least 12 localities in Korea, and then Japan, and from Russia and from China. So after the pandemic, it was impossible to collect specimens from foreign countries. So without the specimens, without the DNA samples from these countries, the objectives and aims of my study was incomplete. So in that way, my research was affected by Corona pandemic. And the third is that I had to collect the specimen from at least 12 localities from Korea. I'm sorry, but due to the pandemic, the transportation system of Korea was severely disrupted. Korea is usually considered as one of the countries having best public transportation system in the world. Because the flowering season and fruiting season of Rumex is very short. I had to collect the samples in 1.5 months from 12 localities, and that became impossible, and I had to cut down some trips due to this pandemic. So we were waiting for the better time for collection and for getting samples from abroad. However, Corona was going nowhere. It was still the pandemic was still going on, and it was time to write the midterm report, and we had to change the strategy for research. I and the principal investigator, my professor, discussed how to adapt with this current scenario. So we thought we went through an innovative way. We changed the main objective, which included the collection of specimens from abroad, and we had we decided to focus on the species distributed only in Korea. And actually, during field trip, we had observed some populations having the intermediate morphology of some individuals. So we predicted that these individuals are the hybrid swarms. So actually these populations were the populations of alien taxa. They were introduced in Korea recently. So these alien species were in mixed populations, and we found the intermediate individuals with intermediate morphology in a graded way, in different gradation, and it was actually some confusion to figure out which for some individuals to decide whether this is one species or the another. So and I went through several literatures, and I found that the process of hybridization between alien taxa has not been studied well in the world. So there were the many works about hybridization between native species or between native species and the alien species, but we found almost no papers on the hybridization between alien species in other parts of the world also. So we decided to focus on that part of the research. So we changed our strategy. We submitted the midterm report, and our proposal was accepted. We were initially worried that maybe we will not will get fund from the funding organization for and our project will be terminated, but our new strategy was approved, and the fund and the project continued, and we after that we did a lot of work to design and to redesign our work and to find the better conclusion. So here what I want to say is that we had a strong will to contribute to science and society, and due to this will, we decided not to give up our work, but to adapt to this changed situation. And on the basis of my work, I found some very interesting patterns in these populations where there were alien. There were population of in these populations where there were mixed alien species, and we presented our work in the annual in a conference organized by Annual Society of Plant Taxonomists, Botany 2021, and we have prepared a manuscript which we are going to submit by this weekend. And I think that our work will give new information, and it is different from what usually the research is conducted, in the way the research is conducted, and I'm very hopeful that our work will be accepted in the high impact factor journal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhandari.
Thank you.
Thank you for your continuation of your work, and we wish you all the best. As we have seen, scientists like Dr. Bhandari, they are continuing their work despite the prevailing pandemic. It's not because that the scientists are not immune to the COVID-19. They are also human beings. They also get infected. For instance, as you must know, over between 80,000 to 180,000. I mean, more than 150,000 health workers have been killed or have died because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19, while serving the patients. Besides that, we don't have any data yet. How many scientists have, sacrificed their life to save the life of many people? So that is what scientists do today. And thank you very much, Dr. Bhandari. People like you, continue to work, and that's how the humanity is saved and protected. Thank you very much. Now, moving ahead, we have Dr. Sachiton Sarawadi. She is a member of Thai Young Scientist Academy for her presentation. Dr. Sarawadi, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dinesh. Namaste, Mr. Ganesh Shah, Dr. Croft, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, and maybe good morning to those of you who are in the other part of the world. And thank you for the introduction, Dinesh, and it is my great pleasure, and it is very honored to be invited as a part of us celebrating the World Science Day today. Right now, I work as a researcher at the National Metal and Materials Technology Center. And we call that MTech, and we actually are part of the National Science Technology Development Agency in Thailand. We are actually based in a little bit north of Bangkok, and we are surrounded by two neighboring universities, which are the Asian Institute of Technology and Thammasat University. And right now, my research focus is on the development of the additive manufacturing, or what we usually call it 3D printing. And I do a lot of research to develop the processes to accommodate the development of the functional materials and the composite materials. And right now, we actually have several types of material that are already commercialized in the world of the 3D printing industry, including metals, polymers, and ceramics. And the processes has evolved so fast and so far that the technology actually can be certified and realized to produce the end-use products. And that's actually when several scientists started to seek out for possibilities of other material choices. And synthetic rubber is actually one of the most interesting materials because it's flexible, it's more flexible than the conventional polymers that can be printable. But in my research team, we wanted to take it to another level. So we started to explore to a better type of rubber, and that's what we call natural rubber. It has a very unique properties because it's very strong. It's a lot more flexible than the synthetic rubber. And actually the natural rubber is among the top agricultural products in Thailand. And with this technology that I invented with my team, I believe that we can now design the rubber product with complex shapes for the new innovative opportunities out there. And I also believe that the rubber cultivation communities will be a part of the new value chain, and that will provide them a much better financial security. So that's the background of my work and what we've been doing before the pandemic. And then during the unfortunate pandemic, our research plan was affected, just like how Dr. Bhandari mentioned earlier. And in my case, it's because most of the work that we need to do must be done physically in the lab facilities. So we had to adjust our plan. We adapted to the social distancing measures, and we spent more time on studying on papers, planning for the experiment for our future work whenever we can be back to the lab facilities and start working physically again. And that's the point where we actually need to rely heavily on the benefits of the open science, which is being emphasized by UNESCO, as mentioned by Dr. Croft. And during that time of about 2 or 3 months of the very strict working from home policy, I found that most of my junior colleagues can pick up new skills very quickly. Initially, they need to handle most of the hand-on tasks in the lab facilities. And now that they need to be working from home, be reading and writing more, I found that they can utilize their time more efficiently with the new skills. They could, they did a lot better on reading. And I also see a significant improvement in their writing skills. And I think that is what's special about the younger generations. And that actually brings me to the second part of my talk, where I always believe in promoting and empowering the roles of young scientists. And I'm very proud and honored to be a part of the Thai Young Scientists Academy. I was a co-chair for the past year, and now that my term has ended, I became one of the executive committee members. During the time that I've been working closely with the young scientists in the academy, I wouldn't say that the young scientists are underrepresented now, but I just wanted to point out that the roles of young scientists should be recognized as a culture. The scientists in their early and mid-career tend to be more flexible, tend to be more adaptive and more resilient to changes. So it might be true that we might be less experienced, we might have less access to resources compared to the senior colleagues. But the most important thing is that we are the link between science and the future of the next generation. And actually, our academy has conducted several outreach activities to engage and connect with young children. And some of those activities was actually funded by UNESCO Jakarta. And actually, it's not only the Thai Young Scientists Academy that's promoting the role of young scholars. The Global Young Academy, they also have the project that's called Global State of Young Scientists, or GLOSIS. And their report suggested that the young scientists can be better supported in their career development in several ways. That includes providing a better mentoring program for them, providing a wider spectrum of training at the initial stage of their career, and also the work-life balance is very crucial, is a key factor to help them succeed in their career, especially for women. I think gender equality is very critical in order to achieve the betterment in science. I'm a female researcher with 3 engineering degrees. So it is very common for me to be in a classroom that has more than half of the students that are boys. But I did observe that for the students that perform better and became top of the class, they are actually girls. It's very typical in Thailand for the girls to perform better in schools. But it is very interesting how we don't see many of them become leaders in professionals. Why do we leverage the talents only from half of the population and leaving the other half unheard? The voices of scientists of all genders, male or female, should be heard equally because science is genderless. We cannot deny that we can still see the gender gap, especially in the decision-making levels. However, on the bright side, I think I could see that there's a significant increase in gender equality awareness. Several organizations and academies, they started to include the gender-related policy at the institutional level. They encourage everyone to be to consider diversity and inclusivity more seriously. So in conclusion, we need to focus on the culture to make sure that the needs and the voice of all the scientists are inclusive, male or female, junior or senior, and we need to emphasize the challenges that young scientists are facing and how to be more supportive for them. Policy will mean nothing if no one starts taking the real action. So if everybody starts making small changes today, I think that will be a big step to the inclusivity of the global science. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarawadi. How well said that science is inclusive. How well you said that the young scientists have less access to resources, but they are more committed, more dynamic, and dedicated. And most importantly, you said that the young scientist breathes science with the future generation. Thank you so much, Sasi, for this wonderful remarks that you made on this Day of World Science. Thank you very much. Moving ahead, we have Dr. Sher Bahadur Poon. Dr. Poon is a household name in Nepal, especially after the breaking of coronavirus. I'm not sure, and I even cannot imagine how many COVID patients Dr. Poon visited or treated in last nearly 2 years. I'm just wondering, at the time of great fear, when everybody was unsure about this infectious, highly infectious virus, the coronavirus, this guy was working day and night at Infectious Disease Control Hospital. So let's hear Dr. Sher Bahadur Poon. Dr. Poon, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Buzu, for inviting me to talk. Today I'm going to talk about my experience that I have gone through. We had two COVID first and second wave. We have gone through this. I don't know. It's a it's really for us is a nightmare like that. Of course, first wave was not like that compared to the second wave, because many people began to think that, oh, it's actually nothing, and it's not very big deal. So the second wave really, it's really very nightmare for me, and I was battling the it's called a war zone. I used to say war zone. Whenever I was walking around in front of the emergency department, and I found the people are just suddenly collapsing, and we are trying to save their life as well. So today is a World Science Day. So talking about the topics and the day today we are being observed. I think without science, nobody can even imagine how we can tackle with the disease and how we can develop the vaccine and even identification. I remember that when the Nepal just began, the visit 2020 Nepal, something like that. And I wrote one article, of course it's in Nepali. And then I observed that something is happening in Wuhan, the China, that somewhere around 40 or 44 people admitted, hospitalized due to SARS-like virus. At that time, I was a little bit curious about that disease, and I wrote an article. Of course, at that time, there was no name given by WHO. And when I wrote that article, it was at actually in the morning, 2 a.m. actually. I don't know why I was really very curious about that, but I was just thinking, and okay, what kind of this disease? Because every time, every year, something is happening in the world. And as long as I was working for nearly 2 decades in the infectious disease hospital, which is we say central hospital of the government, single hospital, at least at the moment. I was thinking, what kind of this virus actually is seen in Wuhan, in China. And to my surprise, one guy admitted to our hospital, and the hospital director told me that, Dr. Poon, somebody came from the Wuhan, and he showed, the symptoms like, the disease that is spreading in China. And but even you can't imagine, I just went like this without any personal protective equipment, so what we call now. I'm just sitting like, my style is like that, and I'm just sitting nearby him, and I was asking him what happened or how it happened. And he was very cool. Yeah, doctor, like this and that. I went to the theater and I saw somebody, coughing there, and probably from there I got infected, So I don't know, but as a researcher as well, I was closely observing him actually. I don't know about the other doctors, because they need, the patient must be improved. That's all. But for me, when they finish their work, and then my thinking begin from that point of views, to find out why, how, and what's happening, because this is science, I think. And fortunately he improved, and he was discharged. But at that time we don't have testing facilities. And when the test, the result came out, it was turned out to be coronavirus. And suddenly everybody began to think, oh, what happened? And how you deal with this guy, and what happened, something like that. And at that night, I was also a little bit, for some second, I was a little bit scared. What is turned out to be this kind of disease that we really never seen? But we heard that in China, one after another, people are dying because of this disease. And then suddenly that guy was again called and to the hospital. And at that time, people are a little bit psychological, because of course, new virus, and we don't know lots about that virus. And we're really little bit interested about that the disease. But although our junior colleagues really little bit scared about the new disease. And uh, and again, the science that we didn't have at that time, we didn't have PCR machine, that the polymerase chain reaction, the machine equipment that identify the coronavirus. And for some time we have to wait until the second, the case detected, I think 2 months later. Then and really at that time, the Kathmandu and whole Nepal was really scared about this disease. And but for me, as long as I was working for a long time, I don't know why I was not so much scared, but really very, very interested about this virus. What kind of this virus actually, all whole world were really scared with this virus, and what will be going on, and how we can prevent the people in the coming days. So then the first wave, passed. At that time, I think we did not lost a lot of people as compared to second wave, and many people begin to think, oh yeah, actually, not so big lost of the the patient as compared to the other country. But at that time, I used to talk about the coronavirus, that we don't underestimate this virus as long as we don't know really. And of course, here is a scientist who really work day and night in different part of the world. And of course, for me as a physician as well as a researcher, I really, I really very observant. Actually, I'm always observant, and I think if I'm not wrong, I found the first post-COVID patient as well at that time, because I remember one, the woman discharged after she was treated in a hospital, but after 1 month she came to visit me, and explaining about her problem, that she's still suffering from shortness of breath, chest pain or heaviness in the chest, and really fatigue. I mean, she really felt tired. And at the same time, I was reading a different article about the post-COVID problem. Actually, it was post-acute COVID-19 syndrome, as we now rightly saying right now. And that was, I think, the first case that I encountered with the post-COVID. And then I wrote an article in Nepali, and many people came out, and, oh, doctor, what is this? Actually, we thought that we are already cured, but what is happening with my health again? And I put them in front of each other, them, so that they realize that it's not only happening with him or her. So they understand each other. And then I was talking that this was a very new issue for us and around the world as well. And they were looking at each other and saying, oh, it's a problem actually, not only happening in the other part of the world, but actually in Nepal as well. So I can say maybe I observed these people just at the mid of the first wave of the COVID-19 in Nepal. And of course, there I I also had opportunity to the review many research article at the same time. I was really enjoying, because before publishing, I was reading all these things, happening in other country, actually in developed country, and the papers are coming, one by one, and then I was just enjoying what's happening actually. And I'm very glad to know, actually, before it was published, I used to read, and of course, as a peer reviewer, I try my best to understand a lot of things during my peer review process. So dozens of papers I reviewed during that time, and it's really actually, as a scientist as well, I enjoy a lot. Of course, at the same time, the Nepal was suffering, or we are, passing through a very difficult moment as well. In the second wave, of course, that was really very scary, and even I can't explain the situation at that time. And many, I was inside the emergency department, and people are suddenly collapsing, and many people are asking, please supply me the oxygen. I don't need beds. This, the sound still ringing in my ear, and I never thought like that. Although I predicted that situation can be happening in Kathmandu, because we, before that time, we already seen in India as well, where their oxygen supply was out, and many people are dying due to lack of oxygen. So that could be happening in Nepal at that time. I was saying, but nobody, I don't think the concerned people actually realized that thing during that time. But I was making my voice. We need these things because we are, we are looking at India. I mean, we must learn from the India. But at that time, we really didn't learn much about that. But many people are thinking that the first wave was really comparatively not very severe. So the second wave may not be like that. But we had a lot of lost life, and I saw many people dying, even 6, 7, 8 within 24 hours. I can't believe I have never seen like that, and that situation was really very scary, and still it's like a nightmare. Still, when I remember that time, it's really very scary. But during that time, our colleagues really worked very hard day and night, and they were really worried about their actually family members, because we already know that the elderly person or with the chronic diseases, they are really risks at infection and dying of these viruses as well. So these are all these things. But in the second wave, many young people who had not chronic diseases, they also died, and we really it's like what I used to say, that the army without arm. We don't have the good treatment protocol. I mean, there is no specific treatment as well, even today. So these are all happened during that period. But I still remember these days, days that I spent in the hospital. So even that had happened, I learned a lot from the people who got infected, and I think I wrote a lot of article as well, of course, in the Nepali language as well as in English as well. So these are all my experience, and all these happened during that time that I talk today, and I had the opportunity to share these things with you all. And I hope the science, without science, I can't even imagine that in future we will beat this virus. Not only this virus, maybe even new virus. We have to get help from science. So I hope a new discovery will still in coming days, and this virus will be we can defeat this virus with the help of science. So this is what I can say. So thank you so much. But I think I have more experience than involving the research work. Of course, in future, I will engage in the research work as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Poon. I don't know how to express our thankfulness to you, not because you came to join us today, but because you saved so many critical lives, putting your own life at risk. It looks like not you, but the coronavirus were afraid of you. That's how
because of my name as well.
Yes. Professor Adhikari has just mentioned here in a lighter moment that your name is shared.
Yeah, it's a line.
Yes.
So
Why the coronavirus cut off. Thank you very much. Maybe sometime again, we would like to hear more your stories that you would like to share with us. Thank you so much.
Thank
So, dear friends, dear participants, we planned this session for 60 minutes today, actually 1 hour today, but we have already run out at least 20 minutes. So I apologize that we may not be able to entertain any comment or any questions here, because these were the experiences that our research scientists wanted to share, that we requested them to share. So please excuse us that we will not going to have any further discussion here. So with this, we'll like to move to the final stage, for which we have invited Dr. Nalini Subba Chhetri to sum up today's presentations. Actually, Dr. Subba Chhetri is an editor of a forthcoming report, which we named Nepal Science and Technology Report. It has been over 2 years since we have been planning to bring out this report, Nepal Science and Technology Report. But unfortunately, for various reasons, one of them is, of course, the coronavirus, the pandemic. We have been late to bring out this report. Actually, we plan it to unveil today to mark the World Science Day. But for some reasons, we have shifted the program for next anniversary, that is on December 6th next month. So we again will invite all of you to join us when we unveil this much awaiting report, Dr. Nalini Subba Chhetri, and to summarize today's presentations. Dr. Nalini, over to you.
Sabaiलाई namaste. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhuju. It has been an honor, and it has been also fascinating to hear so many lived experiences. So my name is, again, Nalini Subba Chhetri. I'm a professor here in Arizona State University, and which is one of the largest state university in the United States. And we are very much engaged in, and we are also one of the largest research public university. So it is very much in line with what we've been listening to on this very auspicious National Science Day. I think it is very appropriate that we listened to young scientists and their work, but also that we listened to scientists who actually did work during a very challenging time during COVID. And I want to start by thanking Minister Ganesh Shah for chairing this occasion, for Dr. Dinesh Bhuju for inviting us, as well as the speakers and all the participants and the scientists and the experts who have lent both their expertise, their heart, their soul in bettering and improving science and technology in Nepal, and also for the participants who are part of this program today. I think we should celebrate Science and Technology Day for many years to come. I'm going to start off by thanking Director Michael Croft from UNESCO. It is always heartening to listen to leaders in the multilateral agencies like UNESCO and United Nations about the kind of leveraging that they can do and the kind of catalyst that they can be in connecting different organizations, different people, because I think that is key in advancing science and technology that not only benefits a country, but benefits the world and the people. And so it was very heartening to hear Michael Croft talked about not UNESCO leveraging network of networks, working between the intersection of science and policy, which is the area that I work in, science and policy, and also about connecting young people, youth to science, and also leveraging the various clubs that UNESCO have. That was very heartening. And so our warm wishes to his work in Paris, where he currently is. And then I want to thank, I think, first speaker, Dr. Sujata Shakha, and her fascinating work as an oncologist on tumor research using 𝐲𝐢𝐭𝐡 to look at digital pathology, which is an area that will not only improve the diagnosis of this disease, but also allow us to follow protocols that could be replicated, not just in Japan, but also around the world, and hopefully in Nepal. So thank you, Dr. Sujata Shaka, for the wonderful work you're doing in Japan. Then to Dr. Gauri Bhandari and this fascinating story about the challenges they faced on doing science around plant species in Korea. And that is a story that is echoed by hundreds of thousands of researchers around the world, and how their fieldwork was challenged and how they adapted, innovated to ensure that the research continued. And like Dr. Bhuju said, astonishing number of publications have come out despite the COVID. So that is an indication of how innovative, how adaptable our young minds and brilliant minds are, that research does not stop because of a disease. And I was very heartened to think about, to read about, and to not only, and to listen to Dr. Sachiton Sarawadi. I hope I got that right. And actually, Nalini is also a Thai name, so I should be pronouncing this better. But I was very heartened to hear her talk about the need to nurture young scientists and how to have a work and life balance, because I think only when we are happy in our other life and when we are productive can we also contribute to science. So this life-work balance and the need to nurture all kinds of talents, men and women, is important, because the more diverse our talent pool is, the more we can contribute to science and technology. So I think that was a very heartening thing. And also her work on rubber is fascinating. It is interesting to know that we can still do science outside the lab. In fact, we have run a project here called Science Outside the Lab, and what it means. So that also is a replicable model for many universities, think tanks outside of the scientific labs. And it was very fitting that we ended with Dr. Bahadur Poon and his heroic work, both as a scientist and the curiosity they have right at the beginning. I had visited Hubei province myself with my students just in 2019, and we were in Suzhou city, and Wuhan was the other city. So I have a personal connection there with that province because of the work we are doing in China. But so it was fascinating to hear about Dr. Bahadur Poon's initial curiosity, then how the disease came upon them so suddenly, and the idea of building the car as you're driving it situation, I think fits into the work he did, and trying to save lives, understand the disease, establish protocols, as well as write about it and be a scientist. I think it encompasses everything that we would look to what a real scientist should be in the future, somebody who's not only does robust work, but he also does a work with heart. And this is idea of romance that is the title of this project, which is basically, we look at science that does science that is rigorous, robust, full of integrity, but it is done with empathy, it is done with people in mind, it is done with heart. And so this is the kind of work that I also teach. I teach with my students, and the work we do in our programs here. And I think that's the only way to advance science, advance technology, not just for the benefit of our country, but for the benefit of all humanities. So I really think, and with this, I think I want to thank Dr. Bhuju and every participant here, and to kind of hope that when the science and technology report comes out, that we will be able to do something of this. And so with this, I now hand it back to Dr. Bhuju. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nalini Subba-Chetri, for summarizing so beautifully today's presentations. I'm so pleased, not because that you thank me so many times, but because you summarized the whole presentation so in a wonderful way. Amazing. Thank you so much. And now we are almost at the end of this session. Before I invite former Minister, Engineer Shah, to conclude and wrap up today's program, who is chairing this session today. I'd like to once again apologize. Could not give you time to express your opinions today, because I see here people like Professor Ramesh Maske, who is the coordinator of UNESCO committee in Nepal. And also I see my own teachers and very senior professors like Professor Roshana Matya, Professor Ganga Shrestha, and so many others here presented who could have and who would have enriched our knowledge today. But unfortunately, because of the time pressure, we could not provide you any days celebrated not one day, but we can celebrate every day, you realize. So with this apology note, I would like to request Chairperson of today's session to conclude today's session.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Доброй ночи.
Добрый вечер.
Добрый
सुनिएन
вечер.
जस्तो लाग्यो सुनिया छ
एकदम राम्रो सुनिन्छ हजुर.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Buju. First of all, it is an honor and privilege for me to honor such a distinguished scientist session on the occasion of the World Science Day. Dr. Buju remember and Dr. Rameshwar Adhikari that when we started about few years before, I don't remember, 7-8 years before, a march on this occasion on the early morning with the school students that Nepal should celebrate the World Science Day. Nepal should have their own National Science Day. And today we are very happy to tell you that this year also we celebrated the 7th National Science Day. We have been celebrating the World Science Day continuously. I think today this is my 5th program from morning, sometimes with the scientists, sometimes with the young students, sometimes with the young researchers. But this evening program is very, very, I think, I say sometimes happy sometimes, because there's a representative from the UNESCO, Michael Croft, and our Nepalese scientists, Sujata, Gauri, and scientists from the Thailand, and the Sher Bahadur Poon, everybody knows he is the Sher. You know, Sher is a lion, he fights, you see. So, and Professor Nalini Subha Chetri was very lightning to listen to the summary, actually. And I was thinking 3 things that what we achieved or what we should do in the coming future. First of all, when I see all these our Nepalese scientists collaborating with other international scientists, I really feel very happy that science diplomacy is moving forward. I am talking all the times that science, technology, innovation has no boundary, especially science has no boundary. It doesn't belong to any caste and caste, it belongs to the humanity. So the world scientist has shown that when there was a pandemic globally, they have been able to do a lot of things, save the millions of people's lives. So on this occasion, I must congratulate all the scientists and the health workers who work to save the lives from the pandemic. All of you know that now in the Glasgow, there is a COP26 going, which is another challenge for the humanity, you see. How much people is dying from the air pollution, water pollution, all these and disasters, what is climate-induced disasters. Now I think global scientists has new challenges where the young scientist has to work very, very hard. And so that's why I say that one is that what are the challenges of the young scientist which has to be addressed by the state? Nalini is working in the Arizona University. What are the challenges with the academic institution and the universities so that the young scientist can solve the problems which the humanity will be facing in the coming days? That the second thing I was to say that the challenges before the political parties or the academic institution, university, has to take into the consideration challenges which are coming, whether it is due to the Industrial Revolution 4.0, climate change issues, pandemic, and others, livelihood issues, you see. So these new challenges can be only solved by the cooperation and collaboration the young researchers and the young scientists, and backed by the innovations in all these sectors. So Nepal has just 2 years before adopted the National Science Policy, National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, which main draft was done or I was led by Dr. Dinesh Bhuju. But we have a lot of challenges for implementing our National Science, Technology, Innovation Policy. We have another challenges of the science education, because I normally divide it into 4 or 5 compartments. First is the basement, is the science education. In the developing countries, normally science education, the young people are afraid. They are when there is a science examination, math examination, you see in villages there is a lot of students who has got the fever or diarrhea or something due to the fear. So science education at the school level has to be, and for that there is one formal education, and we and Dinesh Bhuju have been talking about the non-informal education of the science. This is the non-formal education of the science, because the science education takes place informally also at the so many places, visiting the science park, botanical garden, botanical parks, and other things. So life should learn, they should science. Promoting the young scientists is already our challenge. And the last and the least, what I talk is this is the collaborative research is becoming very, very important in the coming days, because the world is much more globalized than any time. Before, if I remember my life, that we used to travel after 5 years. When I studied in the Soviet Union, I came only after 7 years back to Nepal. Now the people are coming for 2 days, 5 days, 3 days, going and coming. So this globalization of the when you say sometimes for the betterment, the ICT, information technology has globalized the world. At the same time, it has globalized the disease also, but it is globalizing our talents and the knowledge also. So now we have to take out the results from this globalization of the knowledge, skills, all the researchers. So I think one of the biggest challenges coming days is how do we do collaborative research for the different issues. With these remarks, I again wish to our young researchers, our Nepalese, Thai, and other researchers, a very, very, what I say, future your life. I sometimes think I will be not able to see, but might be one of you, somebody of you will be awarded a Nobel laureate or some Magsaysay awardees or some other awardees, because I have a big faith in my life that the researchers, even sometimes they are not recognized during their life, but they are recognized after their lives. So your contributions, your dedication, all these things will certainly help the humanity. So humanity will remember you. So we wish you all your success in your coming research. Whatever I already Nalini said, that during the pandemic, during the crisis, everybody find out the ways So though I think the world is in the big crisis, different I have already in other doctors, but as Nalini Professor Dinesh, other professors are here, in Nepalese culture, we say if you have a blessing of a guru or a professor or a teacher, everybody success. So with this, everybody wish strong health and be happy, work for the humanity. You will have all the time success in your life. Wish you all the success. Thank you very much for giving the opportunity. Dr. Saib, Dr. Saib.
Thank you very much, Ganesh Shah, sir. And before we close our screen, let's applaud and let's thank Niranjanji from NREN, who has always been so cooperative, providing us with his Zoom facility. Niranjanji, thank you so much from everyone. Okay, so thank you all. I think this has been a wonderful day that we celebrated World Science Day for Peace and Development. Thank you all.
Thank you.